Hi everyone, Grant K here for the Flame Premium Learning channel. In this video, we're going to have an in-depth look at the master keyer. This keying tool was developed to provide a fast keying toolset where we could potentially create a complete key without having to build a keying flow graph. So within the master keyer, we will find matte tools, color suppression, and edge blending tools. If you would like to follow along, please click the link in the YouTube description to download the media. Alternatively, if you're watching the podcast version of this video, then type the link displayed in your internet browser. So here in Batch, we have a typical keying task. We have a green screen and a background, and we'll use the master keyer to perform the key. When looking at the node, the master keyer has a front input, a background, and a key and source input. All the connections need to be connected, and this makes the master keyer fully capable of performing the composite at the same time as the keying operation. But under the result output, there is also a matte output. This means you could use the master keyer to pull a matte and composite later in Action or a comp node. So you can choose how to use it. The master keyer is accessible in Batch, Action, and the modular keyer, and all the operations should be the same. So go ahead and connect the green screen into the front and key-in inputs, and connect the background into the green background input. Double-click on the master keyer node for its controls and press F4 for the result view. There is no schematic viewer associated with the master keyer, so everything is done in the image or in the controls. And for those of you who like to know a bit about the master keyer background, most of the math is based on the 3D keyer. Bear that in mind when we tweak the matte and discuss softness. But before all that, let's pick the key color. We have a primary color pot and a secondary color pot. To engage the key, we have to click the primary color pot. Now this color picker will sample the current pixel when we click down on the image. If we were to click and drag the cursor, the color pot will average out the colors that are sampled by the picker. Note that the secondary color pot also picks up the initial color sample. If the key color is evenly shaded, then this sample should be sufficient. If the key color is unevenly shaded, press F1 to go back to the front view. We can select the secondary color pot and sample another area of the key and source. As a tip, ensure that you don't select an area of softness because these color pots are setting the tolerance for the key. Looking back at the result view, we can drag the mixer slider between the two color pots to give one color more priority over the other. This is more obvious when we switch to the outmat view with F4 and drag the slider. We are basically giving ourselves the best average within a key, and we can tweak it anytime if needed. Another point to mention is that auto color suppression kicks in as soon as the first key color was picked. We'll come back to this in the second video, but let's focus on refining the matte. One very cool thing about the master keyer is that all the refinements can be done directly on the image in a gestural fashion. We can choose the various refinement tools under the sampling menu, as well as reset any one if required. The default sampling is set to the matte controls, and this is mapped to the M hotkey. Now if we hold Alt and hover the cursor over the image, the matte interactive sliders will appear depending on the cursor's location. I did mention earlier that the master keyer is based on the 3D keyer math. All of these sliders represent a softness region that surrounds the tolerance color. In 3D keyer terms, the softness region is known as the convex hull. Since both keyers represent color in 3D space, each of these sliders can shape the softness region to include or exclude certain colors. In the 3D keyer, we can visually seal this and completely control how softness is applied to the key. In the master keyer, softness is controlled through these sliders to make it simple and easy to use. The order of importance is from top to bottom, so the matte overall has the most influence over the matte. Releasing Alt and dragging the slider left or right will increase or decrease the entire matte softness. Other various sliders will affect only highlights, midtones, and shadows of the matte. The range sliders reshape the softness region in different 3D planes compared to highlights, midtones, and shadows. This is why we can tweak the matte in localized areas within the ranges. You will also find some sliders are grey instead of highlighted. These have even less impact on the localized regions around the cursor. Now go ahead and spend some time tweaking your matte until you can get to a point where you can't do that anymore. The next refinement to help clean up the matte is patches. Similar to the 3D keyer, we can patch a portion of our image and add white or black to the matte. Change the sampling menu to Patch 1 or press Shift 1. There are 3 patches per master keyer and they all operate independently. Now hold Ctrl and drag box selections over the black areas of the matte to knock out any grey colours. We can sample multiple times to increase the patch, but we can also adjust the range and softness of the patch. The patch can fill an area with black or white, but it can also perform an edge analysis. This can be very useful when we have a specific edge to a road, but the matte sliders are not affecting the region. So press Shift 2 to switch to the second patch and sample this side of the dancer. The edge analysis takes place, and we can see the erosion on the edge. We can also adjust the range and softness of the patch to further refine the edge. Please just bear in mind that when it comes to patches, use them sparingly, as they can make the matte quite crunchy. First try to get the smoothest key possible with the 2 color pots, before resorting to patches. In the next video, we'll look at the spill controls, edge blending, and degraining the key. Comments, feedback, and suggestions are always welcome and appreciated. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the Flame Premium Learning channel for future videos.